Welcome everybody back into NerdSesh. As always, I'm Carson Brebbert. Alongside me is Logan Camden, and we are down to two, Logan. The NBA Finals are set as the Indiana Pacers took care of business today, putting away the Knicks in Game 6. They advance to the NBA Finals for a matchup that I am extremely excited for. What do you have to say about how the Pacers got this one done, Logan, and about this accomplishment for them?
I mean, in this game specifically, I thought the Pacers just executed in all the key areas that they needed to win in. First, I want to give this Indiana collective a bunch of credit for the defense that they played today because it was phenomenal. I thought Andrew Nembhard defended his ass off. I thought Obi Toppin had some big plays in transition. I thought this team collectively, they come up with 9 blocks and 10 steals in this game. A lot of full court pressure, a ton of possessions in this game. The ball pressure was immaculate. Carson, I thought they did a really good job, too, just in general, of possession to possession, making the Knicks really value the time that they had with the ball. And what I mean by that is routinely, the Knicks are crossing the half-court line with 17 seconds, 16 seconds on the shot clock, where they are just burning 8 seconds off rip because of this ball pressure, where they're just making them work for every inch on the basketball court. More importantly, Indiana crushed them in transition and on the fast break in this one. I mean, cruise in that department. Points off turnovers in transition. So many easy buckets off of turnovers, but the ones that I thought were more inexcusable were the points off of buckets, where the Knicks score and Indiana just throws the ball up with 2 passes, and they've got an easy layup, they've got an easy dunk, or they've got free throws immediately. So I thought both of those areas, they were great. I thought they shot the ball and manufactured a lot of really high-quality looks. And finally, I thought the biggest component of this, maybe not the biggest component, but another big one was them attacking Brunson and Cat and involving them in so many actions throughout this game. And the guy I've got to tip my cap to is Tyrese Haliburton. You can be really disappointed with what you got from Hallie in the first 3 quarters scoring the ball, but I thought he was masterful in terms of decision-making and finding open players and playmaking. And then in the 4th quarter, in that final stretch, routinely getting Brunson and Cat involved in actions. And I mean, crucifying Cat in drop.
Oh, yeah.
Look, Carson, this is a huge accomplishment for an Indiana Pacers team that is a small market that, I mean, look, I don't want to toot our own horn because we certainly didn't pick this team at the start. We did say the Pacers were our dark horse. All 3 of us, me, you, and Jason, did a show prior to the playoffs where we said the Pacers were one of our dark horses to go to the NBA Finals if you were going to pick one. Obviously, we didn't pick them. I don't want to toot our horn too much, but they were the underdog. They were massive underdogs, and this is a huge accomplishment. The last thing I do want to say is I do think a component of this game, embarrassing performance in the Knicks. I would be embarrassed if I was a Knicks fan. I just thought defensively the energy that you got from them and the transition defense was embarrassing, but the Pacers brought it, and the Pacers routinely brought it. They've been doubted throughout this series. I thought their game plan was excellent in this one, and I thought they executed it to perfection, but they're just better. They're just way better than the Knicks, man. And Tyrese Haliburton is an elite basketball player. It's time to recognize.
They are the better team. They've been the better team throughout this series, and there's 2 particular areas in which they were so utterly dominant, man, throughout this series, and that is in the turnover battle and in transition. Dude, this number is unbelievable. It might be the biggest I've ever seen. The Pacers scored 46 points in transition tonight. 46. So overall in this series, because they were also plus 20 something in points off turnovers tonight, they, for the series, were plus 79 in points off turnovers compared to New York, and they were plus 80 in transition points. Like, that's unbelievable, man. You are winning every single game by 12 to 15 points in those 2 categories. Like, the Knicks weren't going to be able to keep up with that sort of reliable, elite, easy offense that the Pacers could generate. And really, it's exceedingly difficult for anybody to do that. And I probably have harped on this too much at this point, but truly, the 2 teams who are going to the finals are the teams that have dominated the turnover margin and dominated the transition margin. The Pacers and Thunder are top 2 in transition offense, and they are top 2 in transition defense. That is not a coincidence. They have a floor because of that is just higher than these other teams who have to work so much harder for their points. I do want to just start by saying that Indiana is an incredibly well-deserved finalist. Like, we should be so far past the devil magic gimmick or trying to downplay Hallie or trying to downplay the totality of this team in this run. They have dogged everybody who they faced. They only dropped 4 games en route to the finals, took easy care of the Bucks, took easy care of a Cavs team that, yes, was banged up, but nevertheless won 64 games, had their guys out on the floor at least at the end of that series, and then they were the better team against New York. But it's not just this playoff sample size where they've been so impressive. Since January 1st, this team has the best record in the East at 46-18, and they have the second best record in basketball behind only the Thunder. So I've been saying this for a couple weeks now, but this is the best team in the conference. This is the best representative that they could send with the level of basketball they're playing right now and the level of basketball they've been playing for a while. But they did execute their game plan to perfection in this one, man. And first and foremost, pressure busts pipes. And that has been the strongest aspect of this Indiana defense all year. It's been their ability to apply that ball pressure on the perimeter to extend their defense. That's how they force these monstrous turnover numbers. And that's how they had Jalen Brunson in hell. And I thought that if you're looking at the superstar battle, if you're just looking at the overall star battle, Indiana stars were way, 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 way better than New York's. Both Hallie and Siakam were in a different stratosphere than Brunson and Cat in this one. But if you look at the Brunson versus Hallie battle, through 3 quarters, neither of these guys had super big scoring numbers, right? And in their own ways, they had both been affected to some extent by the defense. Like, Hallie, I thought, was making a lot of great reads. He was creating a lot of good shots for his teammates, but he did have 4 turnovers. The ball pressure was forcing him into a couple of giveaways that are uncharacteristic. But even in those first 3 quarters, Hallie was still having a pronounced impact on the game in multiple ways. Like, he was super engaged defensively, made some great plays on defense in this game where he's showing and recovering to get a steal. He's jumping passes. He's reaching. He has a great rotation to block OG Anunoby. He's finding opportunities to score in transition. And we saw the Knicks, again, being really aggressive early in this game where there are several possessions where they're blitzing Hallie at half court. And in this one, Indiana was able to punish them for doing that. I thought that he was making really good decisions out of pick and roll, even through those first 3 quarters. And then in the fourth quarter, just completely took the game over, man. In just 8 fourth quarter minutes, Hallie gives you 11 points, 3 boards, 4 assists with no turnovers on 5 of 6 shooting. And it's like you said, every possession down, pinpointing the defensive weak point, bringing him into the action. It's Cat over and over again, and he is frying him out of drop. I don't know why they had Cat and drop. I thought him playing up at the level was more effective down the stretch in game 5. I thought that was a better coverage. At least they were able to keep Hallie from just walking into those floater looks that he's so comfortable with, but that's exactly what he was getting. And then he's bringing Brunson into the action over and over again and just exploiting New York for having to put 2 on the ball briefly, having to have Brunson show. And now the defense is in rotation. They're swinging the ball. There's a possession where they have Brunson show, so they put 2 on Hallie. He gets the ball out to somebody basically at the top of the key, gets the ball to the opposite wing. It ends up coming back around to Hallie because he never stops moving on the play, and then he attacks a closeout and gets into the lane. So just all in all, mastery offensively down the stretch for him. And throughout, he was able to make that multifaceted impact. Jalen Brunson just struggled in every way in this game, and I give a ton of credit to Andrew Nembhard for sensational defense. Just absolutely incredible pressure on Jalen Brunson. He had 5 steals and a block in the first half of this game and made such a massive difference because first couple possessions, Brunson is just shifting past Aaron Nesmith, and he got a couple of really comfortable looks. Then they put Nembhard on him, and his quickness was just so much more impactful than Nesmith's strength, which is interesting because in the playoff series last year, I thought that it was the opposite case. But overall in this series, if you look at the numbers, Nembhard guarded him better. And in this game, I mean, the difference was absolutely massive. And I think maybe Nesmith was moving just a tad bit slower, trying to get around those screens with his knee injury. But regardless, I mean, Nembhard was just attached to him like glue, absolutely clamped him. And then he also made some plays off ball where he's forcing steals. So much credit to Nembhard defensively. At the same time, like, Brunson was making bad decisions. Brunson wasn't protecting the basketball. And he was terrible defensively, getting targeted every possession down. So Indiana is the better collective team. But I do think that Hallie was the best player in this series. Like, not by a lot, but I think if you look at the overall impact, Brunson being as destructive defensively for New York as he was in 5 of 6 games. Really, game 5 was the only one in this series where he wasn't like an F-level defender. And then you consider that Hallie created more total points of offense for his team when you include assist points. Brunson, for the most part, was really damn good as a scorer, but he was a really bad overall player in game 3 of this series. Even though the Knicks won, they won with him on the bench. And he was a really bad overall player in this one. So I think if you look game by game, like Hallie was clearly better than Brunson in games 3, 4, and 6. I would probably say he was better in game 1 too, even though Brunson had 43 in that game. He was great, but Hallie was so efficient. He was certainly more impactful as a playmaker. He was better in the clutch of that game, and he took much better care of the ball. That's the one where Brunson had 7 turnovers. I think there's a reason that his team was able to consistently generate the higher shot quality. It's because they were able to push with pace so consistently. That's Hallie. It's because of his brilliant decision-making and processing. And it's also because he was able to target a Jalen Brunson over and over. And it's not just Brunson, it's Brunson and Cat, but I would give Hallie the slight edge overall. Now, the difference between these two is not obviously the sole reason that the Pacers win this series. I just saw a lot of people after game 5 immediately going to ragging on Hallie and acting like it's not a conversation between these two, when I absolutely think it is. I think they're very, very close as basketball players. I think that if you say that you prefer either one, that's fine with me. Like, they're that close, and maybe it just depends on what kind of team are you trying to build. But season on the line, Hallie soundly outplayed Jalen Brunson on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think the reason that people are still hating on Haliburton, and to be clear, I'd take Haliburton over Brunson. One, he's nowhere nearly as large of a defensive liability. And again, I just don't think his value can totally be fully appreciated just by the box score. But
I would go as far as to say he's just a very solid defender now. Like, in these playoffs.
No, I agree.
There's an argument he's been a slight plus defender, man. This is what, the 4th game he's had 3 steals. He's had multiple games where he's giving you multiple blocks. Like, he's been very active.
Haliburton doesn't have these glaring physical limitations that he's not, having to overcome. So literally just being positionally sound and in the right spot, he can just be way more impactful than Brunson. Brunson's just...
And smart.
Yeah, and he's brilliant. I think that a lot of people are still hating on Haliburton because they're just holding on to those old takes, man, those overrated takes. And it's kind of ironic, Carson. We had this exact conversation about Josh Allen, I felt like, a lot this last NFL season. I see a lot of parallels between both of these guys. Both were voted the most overrated player in their sport. Ironically, I think both of these players are probably the most underrated in their sport by that metric. Like, I just think that if you're just still hating on Hallie, man, like, you're just hoping that he plays poorly. And I think you were talking about how the Pacers were viewed, Carson, prior to the beginning of this year, prior to January 2025. I think it's hard to shake a lot of those preconceived notions that people build on early in the season. The Pacers were not good at the beginning of this year. Haliburton was really, really bad at the beginning of this year. And I think a lot of people just held on to that, despite having months of evidence that proved otherwise. And not just this season, but last season too. Haliburton had a stretch where he was averaging 25 and 12 and shooting 40% on pull-up threes. It's like, I don't know, man. If this doesn't change his perception, I don't really think that anything is, man. This guy's going to the NBA Finals. He is the best player on a team that is going to the NBA Finals, and he is the biggest reason why. Like, I don't know how many times you can see this guy make brilliant passes up court that lead to buckets, make brilliant decisions in the half court. And like you mentioned, Carson, the biggest thing to me isn't in the numbers. It is what he is doing every possession in the half court, making the best decision, attacking Brunson and Cat down in this game, and finding the open look. If it's in that intermediate range with the floater touch where he's elite, or if it's finding an open shooter, he's a mastermind. He is an offensive mastermind. He is an offensive engine. And I think he's over Brunson, man. I hope this does it, man. I don't know what else Haliburton can do.
Yeah, I think that the guy has to get his flowers at this point. And I don't disagree with the box score stuff. We harp on this so much. And the aesthetics, I think, hold him back because people are so attached to that and so attached to the idea that a great offensive player is a tough one-on-one bucket.
I think he's got a really graceful game, you know?
Well, I love watching him, but I think that obviously, right, the mechanics of the set shot, the handle not being super flashy and sexy, like that has held him back in terms of public approval for a while because people are so obsessed with that things. I mean, look at how some people talk about Jamal Crawford as if he's like a Hall of Fame level basketball player. A lot of the things that Hallie does that lead to an elite offensive impact just generally go underappreciated. But he gave you some pretty nice box score numbers in this one too. I mean, 21, 6, 10.5 assists in this series, 2.5 steals per game. All the while, he's only turning the ball over 1.7 times per game. It's so special to protect the ball at that level. And there's a reason that he's the engine behind the best offense of the last 2 years. A team that was number 1 in playoff offensive rating last year. They're number 2 in playoff offensive rating this year. But I mean, the Cavs are still holding on to that number 1 spot because of what they did to the Heat. I think that they have been the best playoff offense now in back-to-back years. And Hallie is the driving force of that. And just in the clutch moments, dude, I mean, he's been so phenomenal throughout this entire postseason. So he, to me, has just cemented his status as a lock for a top 15 player. That's obvious. But as we talked about, I would probably have him in that 12 spot right now. I do want to shout out his co-star, though, because for most of this game, Siakam was the guy who was carrying the offensive load as a scorer, at least. His transition production in this series was just absolutely astronomical. I think he ends up with 60 transition points. So 10 transition points per game, man. For context, Giannis leads the playoffs overall with 7.6 transition points per game. So he's comfortably outproducing Giannis in transition. And like in so many different spots, man, he's either getting downhill against Cat and he's able to quickly stop and get to a short range jumper. Or there's just so many flat out leak outs, man, off of makes often, off of misses at the rim, off of turnovers. Hallie is so great at finding him, but he's so great at running. So just a ridiculously dominant series from him in transition. And then also, he's able to really get the 3 going in the latter half of this series. And that was big in this one. Off the pop, when Cat's giving him too much space, he steps into a 3 in this one. Just all around really, really impactful. And again, the co-star opposite him for New York, Karl-Anthony Towns, really struggled on both sides of the ball in this game. I thought that he was relentlessly targeted defensively, out in space, giving too much cushion for threes to Siakam or to Obi Toppin, and then just really getting destroyed in pick and roll coverage by Tyrese Haliburton. And he wasn't good offensively either. You know, he's missing free throws. He doesn't get the 3 ball going in this one. He struggled with some double teams early. Indiana Stars just flat out dogged New York Stars with the season on the line. And we can talk about depth being a difference between these teams, but a lot of this one was just the best players totally outplaying the best players.
I do think depth is a big part of it. I do want to give a shout out to some of the Pacers down the roster too. I mean, I think that's one of the advantages. I mean, Carson, you did that video earlier these playoffs on why depth is king in the NBA, and I do think it is a component of this beatdown. The fact that Indiana has so many different guys that can step up and just produce on a given game. If it's Benedict Mathurin, if it's Thomas Bryant, who steps in here and gives you 3 corner threes and was really hurting that Robinson matchup. It's like you think about that matchup in theory, and the reason they had gone to Tony Bradley was because Bradley could battle with him on the boards, but Bryant can space the floor, and when he's hitting threes like this, he completely tears them apart in the half court. And so there are a lot of guys who I thought were super productive in this series. And Obi Toppin too, man. I was kind of mad at Obi Toppin minutes last game. He hits a pair of threes in this one, is leaking out in transition, playing good defense. Indiana did just have more guys, but I do think the bigger thing in this one was the Stars, and I think the Knicks have a lot of questions coming into this offseason, man.
Dude, I cannot believe this. Obviously, we go live right after the buzzer. They gave Eastern Conference Finals MVP to Siakam.
Over Hallie.
I just think that's crazy,
wrong,
man.
I think
that
wrong.
Is straight up box score watching, looking at the scoring numbers. And that's not to say that Siakam was not really good in this series. He was really good defensively in this game as well. I mean, he comes up with 3 blocks,
was way more consistent. I guess that think a game 5 is kind of lingering in their mouth, and I guess the game 6 Siakam is fresh on their mind.
Yeah, I guess, dude. I mean, I still thought that Hallie was their best player tonight. I thought that Siakam was by far their best player in game 2. And that's it. that's the only game in the series. Well, I guess, game 5, do they even have a best player? Like Indiana was just bad all around, but that's really surprising to me. I think that is a bad decision. So I guess the Hallie disrespect continues, man. I guess we thought that we were out of the woods. We're not. Earlier today, I was having to go to war for him on Pick a Side. This is just crazy. I kind of can't believe that. And shout out Siakam. He really was good. But I mean, just the tone that Hallie sets offensively, his level of involvement in every single possession, obviously the playmaking impact makes him one of the most impactful offensive players. And there's a reason that before they traded for Siakam last year, this guy was leading the best offense in basketball at the time. And obviously Siakam has never been able to do anything close to that as a number one for you. That is very surprising to me. I don't want to take away from him because he was great, but that's just kind of a bummer. I would have liked to see Hallie get that. That being said, you're talking about some of the major questions for New York. And I agree. And I've harped on this a lot, but their defense with Brunson and Cat on the floor simultaneously
Also,
is just not one that can win a title or really seriously contend.
I want you to go whatever direction you want with this, but I just want to preface this by saying, too, I think Tom Thibodeau is going to get a lot of unnecessary flack for the Knicks getting beaten in this series. I'm with them on, like, very minor things. How can you get mad at Tom Thibodeau for this team not getting back in transition repeatedly? Like, if you want to get on Tibbs for something in that department, the only thing I could point to is the double big look with Robinson and Towns getting abused. And if you want to get mad at him for that, I get it. But there was a lack of effort and care and desire and fire to win this game. Like, look, I'll take issue with Tibbs on that. Maybe you take issue with Tibbs not giving his guys rest, like the big cliche, whatever. I thought he did a better job of turning to his bench later in this series. But to me, this has much more to do with these glaring personnel issues that you just can't overcome. It's like Brunson and Cat are getting relentlessly attacked on defense. These guys are not getting back in transition. They are missing free throws, and they're careless with the ball on offense. Like, that's just... Take issue with minor things. Tibbs would just not be the first guy that I point my finger on after this game and after this series. I think this has much more to do with bigger things for New York, specifically just personnel issues.
Major personnel issues. I've talked about this, but throughout these playoffs, I mean, they were just a negative net rating team with Cat and Brunson on the floor together because their defensive rating is over 117 in those lineups. They are just getting picked apart on that side of the ball. And that number was a lot uglier before last game. And now it's probably uglier again after this game because those numbers haven't updated yet. So that's exceedingly difficult when you have one of the worst defensive guards and one of the worst defensive bigs on your roster against the smartest offense in basketball that is going to be probably the most efficient at picking you apart for doing that. And just like overall, it's hard for them to find a fifth guy. Like, as much as the Brunson and Cat lineup struggled, and even though actually some of their best stretches came with one of those guys off the floor, obviously game 3, they win without Brunson. They had a big run without Brunson in game 1, a 14-0 run. They closed game 2 without Cat. They were able to put together some good lineups going with just one star and then a more defensive focused group around them. But obviously for the most part, they're going to play Cat and Brunson big minutes. And then you get Bridges, whose defense I thought improved as this series went along. And then you get OG, who I really think has just been fantastic. I think he's been top 10 level defender in these playoffs. And offensively, he was their best player in this one. I mean, he's the guy who had things going in the first half when nobody else did. But then who's that fifth guy? That's been the struggle.
I would have turned
in the starting lineup, but yeah,
I think turned to Deuce more, man.
I totally agree. And that would probably be my biggest criticism of Tibbs. Deuce is a guy who brings some ball handling alongside Brunson, which is valuable. He brings high-level shooting, and he brings some real point-of-attack defense. So I get it. You're a little small, but I'm just not as worried about that compared to
how many times can you watch Hart clang an open three, dude?
Jesus,
I mean, that was way bigger of an issue to me. I mean, he airballs a corner three. He clangs an open wing three at the end of the third quarter. Like, just give me a guy who's going to hit some open shots. I understand Hart's value, but in my opinion, I think you need him less when you're running so much Robinson and Cat. It's like, I'm going to trust those guys to anchor the glass, and I'm just going to worry about, again, somebody who can hit an open look.
Yeah, I think that this is a really rough series for Josh Hart. Just the fact that in the half court, he's really not an offensive threat. I mean, his value is his offensive rebounding. You know, he's a good cutter, but guys who are super dependent on cutting just don't get as many opportunities often in the playoffs when defenses are more locked in, often when paints are more loaded up. And for the most part, like, the Pacers really kind of stayed home and they were pretty willing to guard Brunson one-on-one. So there's not a ton of opportunities off of like double teams and whatnot. So with his shooting, with the fact that at the end of the day, like even though he was super efficient on 2-pointers in the regular season, doesn't maintain that in the playoffs. At the end of the day, like he's a 6'4" unremarkable athlete, just really difficult to find a good role for him offensively in the half court. And then Mitch, I never thought was the answer in this series, going double big. And like he had some really good moments in the first half in this game just because his offensive rebounding was so great, but you're so slow. And if there's one thing you cannot be against the Indiana Pacers, it's slow, man. It's right there in the name. They play with crazy pace. They push over and over again. And that's a big reason that there are so many transition opportunities for Indiana, even off of makes, because it's like Pascal Siakam's matched up with Karl-Anthony Towns, man. Like that is a complete mismatch every time down the floor, especially in the full court. I just never thought that that was the answer. And it's not a Mitch thing. It's a Cat and Mitch against the Pacers thing. It's very, very difficult to build a great team with Karl-Anthony Towns. I truly believe that. And it sucks to say I'm somebody who's defended Cat in the past, but I just think it's so hard, so hard to be a serious team with him at the center defensively. He's so bad defensively in every way outside of his defensive rebounding. And then you put him at the 4 offensively, and you're going to lose some offensive value from him because now he's playing with more clogged paints and worse spacing. And then you have a question like this. Do you have a 5 who is quick enough to where having him and Cat together on the floor isn't a real problem for your defense, just being that slow-footed? I'm just not optimistic about that. And then when you throw a liability like Jalen Brunson into the equation, those guys were so good offensively through 5 games. That's what kept them in this. And, they did find a way to play a game and a half of really good defense. But other than that, 4.5 games, you're food. That's exactly what you are. And I don't see a way to change that. I know I've harped on this a lot with the Knicks, but that's a fundamental flaw that is going to be crazy difficult to overcome. And that's why I would absolutely be willing to and looking to move off of Cat.
100%. I completely agree, dude. It's just such a fundamental limiter on getting to the NBA Finals because, even throughout this game, Carson, I sat there thinking, and I was like, do the Knicks need to make a major adjustment? And for a lot of the game, I thought, well, damn, they got to the Eastern Conference Finals this year. They improved from last year. Like, maybe they just need to add some depth pieces. Maybe they just need to get some more. But the issue is the fact that you're trying to win the NBA title. The goal is not to get to the Eastern Conference Finals. I could honestly see the Knicks doing it again. Something breaks their way, they get Boston. I think they could beat Boston. I think Cleveland. But Indiana is such a bad matchup for them. And then when I'm looking further than that, any team out west, it's just too big of an issue to overcome, man. And you got to switch something up. I don't think Cat and Robinson can work together. Somebody's got to go. I don't know. I'm thinking about if it could be Bridges too, but Cat does seem like the odd man out and the guy that you could probably get some decent value back for. You know what makes me mad too, dude, is I thought Cat did a really good job in these playoffs of getting downhill and attacking at the rim and attacking mismatches and smaller defenders where he's got elite touch. And if you're just smaller or not as strong as him, I mean, he can just abuse you going to the rim, but he's so out of control. He's got so many bad fouls. That was another thing about this game, too. So many Knicks just mistakes in brain farts where they're stealing a ball and they blow the points in transition, or they steal a ball and they commit an offensive foul and have to give it right back. Like, who's off the table to you, Carson, if you're the Knicks?
Jalen Brunson and OG Anunoby.
I agree.
And they're not going to trade Deuce McBride just because he's on such a good contract, but they're probably not going to trade Mikal either because he's got one more year on his deal and it's a decent dollar value. Josh Hart, $20 million. He's not giving you that sort of value. He's just such an awkward player.
Bridges isn't untouchable to me. I'd be okay shopping Bridges. I get that it's a bad look because you gave up so many firsts for him, but
I'm not saying he's untouchable. I mean, he's certainly not a good enough player to be called untouchable. I'm saying, what are you gonna get?
The optics.
The
optics would be.
I'm not even saying the optics. I'm saying he's an expiring. So what?
No, I'm saying you would probably lose value, and the optics are terrible.
You lose a lot of value, and I don't mind his current contract. Now, when it comes time to extend him, that's going to be a conversation because at the end of the day, he's a good, not great perimeter defender. He's a good shooter, but a very limited
Bridges,
offensive player overall who's just like fine
Bridges
offensively, honestly.
for
Doesn't get
Jared
to the
Allen,
rim.
straight up.
What the fuck? That's the steal of a lifetime if you're the Knicks.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, no, that's not a deal. That's not something that could actually
Bridges
happen.
and Robinson for Jared Allen.
I wouldn't do that if I were the Cavs. Jared Allen's on a cheaper contract than Bridges for now too, and he's a way better player.
Yeah, but I think they're just better with Mobley at the 5. I don't know, man. I'm trying to figure out something that works.
Yeah, I see the vision. I see the vision there. That's not egregious once you throw Robinson in there because the Cavs would be getting back another rotational big. I think that they definitely do want to add another wing, and Bridges would be that, and I think that he'd be good there. So that's not crazy, but I don't think
The Knicks
it's
just
enough.
feel stuck. They feel stuck.
They do feel stuck unless they pull the Kevin Durant rabbit out of the hat, man. I think that is a very good option
Yeah,
for
man. The
them.
rumor that's been hanging around for a decade now.
Okay, but you basically just do a Cat for KD swap, and I don't think that that's a bad return for the Suns. Maybe they don't want to be attached to Cat's contract, but I think that makes the Knicks so much better. So much better. Oh my God. The
That's not
defense
bad,
that they
man.
could
That's not
actually put
bad.
forth, the defensive wing trio of Mikal with now OG and KD. And then obviously you need another center because I don't even know if Mitch can play like 30 plus minutes for you consistently just with conditioning and health concerns. You absolutely need another legitimate center. But that makes you so much more formidable defensively. You're so much better offensively as well. I mean, it's Kevin Durant, man. And if he's going to be undervalued because you only get him for a year under this contract and he's 36, I would be jumping on that. I was talking about this on Pick a Side today too, man. I'm all in on the Kevin Durant market this offseason. I think there are so many teams that could get him without truly compromising their asset pool, and it immediately launches them up tiers. That's the move to me that launches the Knicks up a tier to where it's like now, okay, yeah, they can go out there and they can win the East. As currently constructed, I just don't think it's feasible. I just don't think it's possible. Their depth does have to get better. I would have no problem with them moving off of Tibbs. I've said that. I don't think that he's a good coach, but I also agree with what you said. Like there's a lot that is in the personnel here. It's about the players and their core limitations. And Cat is the guy who you look at because Brunson obviously is also really bad defensively, but Brunson is on an incredible value contract and he's a significantly better player than Cat, in my opinion, a significantly better offensive player. Just no chance they're moving off of him.
Last thing I wanted to add on the Brunson Cat dynamic is you can get away a little bit more if Brunson is your weak point defensively at the point guard spot than you can at Cat at the 4 or the 5, in my opinion. I think it's just
a little bit.
A little bit. Don't get me wrong. It's bad having any defensive liabilities on the court, but I think it's a little bit better. And Cat does have some rebounding value, but I think Brunson's so much better as an offensive floor raiser that I'd just rather have him. And, oh, man. I don't know what to think about Cat, man. I just go in between here and here, man, with Cat. His stock just continuously fluctuates and goes up and down, man. I don't know what to make of the guy. I'm just frustrated, man. It's really disappointing that he's this bad defensively, dude. He looks, I don't know. Is he just dumb, Carson? I don't get it, man. Like, I just don't get why. I don't know, dude. How many times are you going to freaking backpedal to the rim hunched over watching Hallie hit a... it infuriated to me in the fourth quarter today. Watching him... He looks like a defensive back getting into his cover two, just watching Hallie dropping these teardrops over him, man. It's embarrassing.
And then it's hilarious when, like, he also can't actually cover the roller. Like, if he takes even the slightest bit of step up to challenge the floater, it's like, oh, shit, that's just going to be a free dunk
Vending machine on roller skates, man.
Yeah, he's one of the worst defensive centers that I've ever watched, truly, and is a negative in every way. I mean, he's bad guarding in space. He's a terrible rim protector. He's an incredibly low IQ defender. His positioning is really bad. His instincts are bad. He is maybe the most foul-prone player that I've ever watched. I mean, he averaged 4.5 fouls a game in these playoffs. He's just broken defensively. He's broken, and yeah, there's some physical limitation to it just with his lack of foot speed out in space and obviously not being a good vertical athlete. But a lot of it is, I do think, mental. It's a huge bummer, I think, just because the Knicks went so all in on this core. And, like, look, they made the conference finals, right? They made it further than they have. But I also think you look at those core limitations and they aren't changing. So this is what I've said. Like, if they want to run it back with Cat and they want to be a team that wins 50 games and wins a first round series and maybe wins 2 series, that's all good and well. But if they want to be a team that actually goes out there and contends, I don't know if that trade is on the table. If it is, it probably does look like a Kevin Durant trade. Because other than that, I don't know how you're moving Cat necessarily for like multiple positive assets or even Josh Hart. I think that he's probably viewed as a negative asset. I think more than anything, you're just trying to get off of that money and maybe find like a slightly undervalued wing somewhere else. And hopefully you can slot Deuce into a bit of a bigger role. But the Pacers were the better team. The Pacers were the team that was more complete defensively. They were the team that was more complete offensively. They were going to win the turnover margin. They were going to win the transition margin, and all that stuff came through. They were the deeper team. I do want to shout out Andrew Nembhard for offensively actually stepping up in the second half of this game. He had been so bad in the last 3 games offensively, but he was incredible defensively in this game and then actually made some shots and also made some plays for teammates. And Obi Toppin, man, I mean, just a fantastic 18 points and 3 blocks for you. Thomas Bryant, you mentioned the Thomas Bryant game. He hits the 3 corner threes, but gets an offensive rebound, gets a block. Like, they really did get excellent contributions up and down the roster in this one. I have to shout out Landry Shamet for the Knicks. I mean, sneaky good Landry Shamet minutes throughout this series in 2025, and he deserves some credit for that. But the Pacers were the better team. And they're going to take on the Oklahoma City Thunder, Logan. And I have to say, if you're hating on this finals matchup, I just don't know what you like about the NBA. Like, I am so excited for this series. We're getting the best team in each conference. Since January 1st, they have the 2 best records in the NBA. OKC at 53-13, Indiana at 46-18. They've also been very convincing throughout the entire postseason. This is actually the first time we've had 2 finalists, and both of them dropped 4 games or fewer within their conference playoffs since 2020. That was Lakers Heat. I also think it is a awesome stylistic contrast between these two teams. You have the incredibly gifted isolation scorer who carries such a heavy offensive load in that way in Shea, contrasted to like the ultimate team offense, quick ball movement, incredibly selfless leader of that offense in Tyrese Haliburton. We're going to have a fast pace. It's going to be up and down. We have great depth from both these teams, just a lot of quality basketball players. We're getting best offense in the league, best transition offense since the 7 seconds or less Suns. Like, truly what Indiana's doing in transition is just incredible. Going up against the best defense that we have seen in a long time, in decades at least. That's an incredibly fun contrast and matchup to have, to see who can sort of solve the other. And we also have 2 organically built young teams, 2 teams that were built through the draft and trades and smart role player signings, who are led by a 25-year-old who has been wildly underrated and a 26-year-old who is an all-time great, but has been one of the most disrespected and hated on superstars that I can think of. Like, this matchup rocks, man. It is a perfect culmination of this new generation rising. It's fun basketball. It's diverse basketball. Depth is at the forefront. If you want variety in terms of shots, these are teams that use the mid-range. These are teams that can get to their shots in a number of different ways. I just think it's going to be phenomenal. This is the finals matchup that I've been pulling for a while now, just as a basketball fan, and we're going to get it. And when I see people say, oh, I'm not watching an Indiana versus OKC final, I'm like, why? Are you an executive at Nielsen? Like, is this a market thing, bro? What do you not like about these 2 basketball teams? Because I don't see it. I think these 2 basketball teams are awesome and very fun to watch and are going to make for a very fun finals matchup.
This has got to be the widest NBA finals ever, though, right?
Oh, in terms of the markets?
Oh my God, dude. I mean, like, I think it's going to be the widest finals ever. I don't see, this is just an observation. I don't see any black fans at Indiana or Oklahoma City games, man. Like, I think this is literally going to be Cracker Central.
Yeah, it's definitely probably going to be Cracker Central USA. I mean, obviously, Utah has only ever played Chicago in the finals. So that would be the other super white fan base that you think of.
So that's why
Logan, it's a really interesting
That's
response.
why you're excited.
It's a really interesting response to my impassioned monologue about why these 2 basketball teams are so great. You go,
dude, I was thinking about that.
Honkies in the crowd.
I was thinking about that all game, man.
Are you excited for the basketball or no? You're just going to be spotting the whites in the crowd.
I mean, I just need to make sure the ratio isn't 0, man.
All right, I guess
no, I'm super pumped for this. I think Carson, I think you said it really well. I don't know how you can't be excited about this. Best offense versus best defense. This is in they're organic teams. They're not super teams. Like, just as a basketball fan, I'm pumped. And most importantly, I think my favorite aspect of this is the speed of both of these teams, because I think this series is just going to be played at an absolute breakneck pace. I think both of these teams are going to be flying up, and I don't think it's going to be a sweep. I know that a lot of people are they think that Oklahoma City is just going to wipe them. I don't feel that at all. I think it's disrespectful to Indiana to expect that they're not going to get a single game.
Yeah,
I'm super excited, man. I think these are the two best teams that we could have got.
I agree, man. Very deserved. We do have one super chat. Thank you very much, Jeff, for your generous donation to the NerdSesh Foundation. Late to the chat. Have we talked about Tibbs' stubborn approach to denying the depth of his bench? It's maddening. And what's up with the Brunson ISOs over and over?
I mean, denying the depth. Do you really want more DeLon Wright minutes? I mean, it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know what Tibbs. I think Tibbs pressed all the buttons. Do you want more Huck Porty, Tyler Kolek? Like, I don't know, man. I feel like he kind of pushed and pulled all the levers.
Yeah, I would have gone to Deuce more. I mean, that's definitely the one that you can look at. But overall, I mean, Tibbs utilized the bench a lot more than I thought. I thought that he actually found some good minutes from DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet that I wasn't expecting. And the Brunson ISO, that's his play style. Like, to me, that is more of your point guard dictating that than it is your coach. Like, this is what you see, man. These are the guys who are dictating your style. One guy is pushing pace and getting you up and down the floor over and over again and quickly moving the ball. And there's another guy who very much believes in his one-on-one scoring ability, but wants to slow down the pace a bit more. The Knicks still played at a pretty fast pace in this series, but I talked about how dominant the transition margin was, and they were one of the slowest paced teams in the regular season. And so the offense can sort of grind to a halt a little bit. Like, I do think there's sort of been this dynamic after every game of this series when there's a great Hallie game and everybody praises everything that's great about Hallie's style and acts as though like there are no merits to how Brunson plays. And then there's a great Brunson game and everybody praises his volume scoring and says, oh, Hallie has to be more aggressive and, he's overrated or whatever. He's not a superstar. And at the end of the day, like, these guys are super close. Yeah, their great games look great and their bad games look bad, but I do fundamentally prefer Hallie's style, but Brunson is an amazing scorer, man. This guy went out there and dropped an efficient 30 points per game in these playoffs and generally does lead to pretty good results for his team's offense. And they were reliant on him and Cat getting buckets for them all postseason long, and they just went down with the ship in that way. Like, we can't act like, oh, that strategy was so ineffective. No, it wasn't as effective as Indiana's, because Indiana just creates more easy offense as a team. But Brunson and Cat through 5 games, I mean, they were having like maybe the most productive offensive series of both of their playoff careers. Certainly for Cat. Brunson went crazy against the Sixers last year, averaged like 35 a game in that series, but he was more efficient in this one and averaging like 33 coming into tonight. So do you have any thoughts on that? I mean, like I said, I don't think that Tibbs is an elevator, but I do think that he's probably getting some flack for things in this series that are more roster issues.
I think so too. And I mean, the Brunson thing, I just think that's his style of play. I think that's how Brunson serves buckets.
We do have a response from Jeff. I hear what you guys are saying, but Wright, Landry, McBride, Robinson were plus when they were on. They matched up.
I mean, I think that has more to do with Brunson's liability as a defense that as a defender than anything else. Like, I think those plus minus numbers reflect the fact that they were a really good defensive unit with those guys on, and they hit a bunch of shots. Like, so I think that speaks. I see what you're saying, and I mean, I would hear that as an argument for Brunson and Cat if you were fed up with what you're getting out of them on the defensive end. But I think it's more so the fact that you didn't have both of those defensive liabilities on the court. I don't have the number in front of me. I believe the Knicks had a defensive rating this season without Brunson or Cat on the floor of like 102. Like, this was an elite defensive team without. It's not a massive sample size, but they were a really good defensive team without either of those guys on the court.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's what it speaks to.
Yeah, and like, I see where you're coming from, because Landry Shamet gave you good minutes in this series. I mean, especially with the fact that he was actually giving you some offense with his shooting. With DeLon Wright, he's giving you the defense and the ball pressure, but the offense was rougher. But it's just like, how much do you want to push that, because you're getting like 12 minutes a game from DeLon Wright over the last 4. You're getting like 13, 14 minutes a game from Landry Shamet. Like, that's a hell of a lot more than I expected from guys who I didn't think would be in the rotation and who weren't in the rotation early in this series. And yeah, they're able to give you good minutes in short spurts, but how much are you going to play them over Mikal? How much are you going to play them over, obviously, Brunson? I don't know why Deuce McBride didn't play more. That's the one that I will continue to stand on. I think he had the best combination of two-way skill from any of the bench guards who they could have gone to, and I thought that he probably should have started. But the Knicks bench was always shaky. It was always a big question mark. And at the end of the day, I think that they got more out of it than I expected. We have another super chat. Thank you from Thomas Bryant. Thomas Bryant from Discord here. Y'all owe me some apologies for the smack y'all been talking on my name, SMH. What they gonna say now? I'm sorry, Thomas.
Shout out Thomas. You guys can join our Discord at the link in our social media bios.
Shameless plug.
I'm going to keep it real with you, Chief. Thomas Bryant was negative 15 in the first 3 games that he played in the series. I mean, he was bad. He was kind of getting babied by Mitchell Robinson. So
they replaced him with Tony Bradley. That does kind of tell you all you need to know.
Dude.
But still, I apologize, Thomas, because what a masterclass with the season on the line today.
He had 9 points in 5 minutes. I mean, he ends the game with 11, but he had 9 in 5 minutes. The boy was spraying corner threes. So shout out Thomas Bryant, man. He gave him great minutes tonight.
And those are not easy looks for a almost 7-footer.
Dude, all quick catch and shoot opportunities too, man.
Quick catch and shoot transition from the corner. Like, those are not the sort of threes that your bigs are used to taking, those stationary above the break pick and pop threes. Like, no, those were big time shots that Thomas Bryant hit for sure. Frank Citrus with a generous donation. Y'all have been my favorite post-game watch all season. Keep it up, fellas. OKC in 5, we too deep. Thank you very much, Frank. I will not be giving my prediction because we're going to do
I'll give mine. I'll give mine.
Preview.
Lakers in 9.
That's a good take. That's a good take. And I have the Lakers in 9 and I have the Knicks in 13. I think that they're going to get it done at the end of the day. Thank you. And we will have a preview up for the finals on Monday. We'll probably do multiple shows talking about the finals before it starts because we got a little break here and I'm just so excited. Thomas, thank you for your donation. Is Pascal Siakam a Hall of Famer if he wins a second ring? Love the show, fellas.
I think Siakam could become a Hall of Famer without winning a second ring. I mean, the Basketball Hall of Fame isn't nearly as steep as like the MLB Hall or the Baseball Hall of Fame, or the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Like, those, you have to be the best of the best. I think Siakam has been at such a high level and has already got that first ring with the Raptors. I think if he just stays at this current trajectory, I think he probably will be a Hall of Famer. I think Siakam's still really underrated and underappreciated. Like, Carson, you're talking about it with Haliburton. Siakam doesn't have the sexiest game either. So I think that kind of underrates him a little bit too, man. He's got a very...
I like watching both of them.
No, like, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying to, like, the normal. I like watching Siakam play, too. I'm just saying, I think to, like, most fans, he's not hitting step-back three. It's not a lot of highlight, nasty, oh, that boy tough kind of stuff. You know, it's more Siakam just hit a 6 spin move or a turnaround post fade, which, I mean, is...
They're both great at creating and exploiting advantages. I mean, Siakam's mismatch attacking and transition scoring and his improved jump shooting from beyond the arc this year. Very, very valuable at generating an efficient offense. And obviously, Hallie, we talk about it all the time, all the different things he does. But I see what you're saying. But, I mean, we both love both these guys. You're a huge Spicy P guy.
So,
have been.
I mean, I'll say, I think if the Pacers win this for sure, man, I think you can stamp that ticket. But
can you stamp it? Can you stamp it?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
You know, man, I'm just thinking Sean Marion still isn't in the Hall of Fame. And do we really value rings
Is
that
Sean Marion
much?
not in the Hall of Fame?
Sean Marion's not in the Hall of Fame.
That's mad disrespectful, man.
Kind of makes me sick to my stomach. And it took them forever to put Chris Webber in the Hall of Fame. So I don't know. Sometimes they're inconsistent. Amari Stoudemire still isn't in the Hall of Fame.
Frank's back with another banger, man.
Thank you, Frank. I can't really say. I mean, I do think that they value rings. I think that they definitely value contributions to that a lot. You know, we got Bill Bradley in the Hall, but to be fair, he also had an amazing college career. But 2 titles, yeah, and he's 3-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA. Get him another All-Star team or 2, and then I think he definitely makes it if he gets a ring. Frank, if you're starting a new team, would you rather have Brunson or Haliburton as your point guard? Logan?
Haliburton. Here's the thing about Brunson. The one thing that Jeff was talking about earlier with the Brunson one-on-ones, there are just some things that you have to do to gimmick up your team a little bit with Brunson, where he is going to be a little bit more ball dominant. He's not going to have some of those playmaking and passing angles and opportunities that Haliburton has, and he also is a major defensive liability. So, one, I don't think you have to gimmick the rest of your team up around Hallie defensively. I think you can put competent defenders around him and you can be okay. Like, you're not just going to have a horrendous team defense because he's on the floor. I do think that comes with Brunson. And again, I'm not getting that ball dominant style of play. Carson, you talk about this all the time with Haliburton, but one of the most underrated aspects of his game, we know he's an elite playmaker, he's an elite decision maker, takes care of the ball. It's that relocation in that shooting. And that specifically is what I think makes Haliburton a really ideal piece in building block of an offense, because not only is he going to run my offense and make all these good decisions, but it's the malleability and the fact that he can fit in alongside other players that can handle the rock. That's why you see the viability of these lineups with TJ McConnell, with Andrew Nembhard, with these other ball handlers, where Haliburton can play if he needs as the two guard. So I just think these guys are very close. I wouldn't take issue if you took one or the other, but for me, personal preference, I think your team is more flexible with Haliburton, and I think Haliburton is a better ceiling raiser than Jalen Brunson, but it's very close.
Basically took the words out of my mouth. I mean, if I need somebody to just carry an offense with volume scoring, then I think that Brunson is clearly the answer. And like, I really don't want to do this thing where we rag on Brunson because he was really awesome offensively in this postseason.
Great player.
And like his efficiency as an isolation scorer in these playoffs, over 1.1 points per possession. That's in the 81st percentile. But with his volume too, that's so impressive and very efficient as a pick and roll scorer too. That being said, I think you hit on it, man. I mean, it's the flexibility. It's not having to worry about a flagrant defensive liability. It's feeling like I have a guy who I can play alongside other ball handlers, other guys who want the ball in their hands. And he's only going to excel in that situation with his off-ball value. He's going to amplify everybody around him. He's going to get us out and playing with pace so consistently. I really, really love truly the way that Tyrese Haliburton plays offense. And I think it's conducive to a very high ceiling because no, he can't carry you with that scoring volume night after night. And there are going to be games where he's quiet as a scorer. But if you have guys who can finish plays around him and you have athletes who can get up and down the floor and you have guys who can knock down outside shots, he's going to put them in positions to
ask you something
over and over again in a way that Brunson doesn't.
We always talk about the game's great amplifiers. Where do you think Haliburton ranks among active players in terms of amplifiers?
Very high. Very high.
I would have Jokic up there. He's probably my number one, but I mean, I think Haliburton's on that short list, man. He makes everybody around him better.
He's on the very short list, and it's sort of difficult because, like, there are guys who do it in different ways, right?
Steph,
like,
too, I think should be on that list.
Usually impactful for his teammates. Steph has to be on that list. Shea is not like the traditional guy who people look at and say, oh, he makes his teammates better because he's not like a beautiful elite passer necessarily, but he does make his teammates' lives a lot easier because he can do so much to carry an offense and draw so much offensive attention. So like he's a more impactful offensive player. But when you just think specifically about like making your teammates better, because a lot of Shea's offensive value is like Brunson, right? It comes from isolation scoring, on-ball scoring. I don't know how many dudes I'm taking over Hallie. I mean, Jokic for sure. And then you think about like Luka, right? Because he's such a great passer and he draws so much defensive attention, is a different level as a scorer. But I love the tone that Hallie sets for my team offense. I love how much we're getting out in transition. Like, obviously, Luka is a different level as a player from Hallie. But in terms of just amplifying teammates, Hallie's there, man. I think Hallie's there. I think he's easily top 5 in that conversation.
I
Steph,
agree with you.
Yes. Steph, the gravity is just stupid. It's unmatched. So he's probably got to be number 2 after Jokic still. But I think Hallie is definitely in that top tier in that regard. And I would narrowly take him over Brunson. I would. Awesome basketball player. Awesome team. Can't believe he didn't get Eastern Conference Finals MVP, but who cares? I'm sure he's thrilled for his teammate. I'm sure he's thrilled for Spicy P, baby, who also did have a really, really good series. The Indiana Pacers, Logan, they're here. We're getting a Hallie Shea. We're getting an Indiana-Oklahoma City final. Some of my favorite players. 2 of my favorite teams to watch, if not my 2 favorite teams to watch. 2 teams that I have been ride or die for throughout these playoffs. Well, I did pick the Pacers to lose to the Cavs, so maybe I can't say that I've been ride or die, but you know, I've always been a big believer in Hallie and what they're doing, and certainly was very confident they were going to win this series. So if you want to hear me advocate for that confidence, I was on a pod earlier today, pick a side, I've mentioned it, and I said everything that was going to happen tonight. It's sort of a Nostradamus performance for me. I said, yes.
Karstradamus?
Karstradamus. I said Nostradamus, like Nas. I should have said Nostradamus, but Nostradamus, what a
shout out. Great
stuck
album.
in my head. But yeah, basically, I told them all how it was going to go. I looked them in the eyes and I said, Hallie's the freaking man and the Pacers are the better team. And that's how things are going to go. And, they wouldn't believe me, Logan. But at the end of the day, they had no choice.
He scores.
Anyways, you can go watch that. And of course, subscribe to our channel if you want more of our content. You can see all of our post-game live streams. We will be live after every single NBA Finals game, of course, but we'll have some fun preview content before then. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of this matchup, which I'm so excited for. And you can also listen to all of our full-length episodes across all audio platforms. Also on our YouTube channel, we will have some in-depth video breakdown content, as always. I'll probably do something previewing the finals, maybe glazing Shea. Probably can't glaze Hallie again. I already made a video glazing him in these playoffs. Maybe I can. Who knows, Logan? Why am I going to put a limit on myself? But that's on our YouTube channel. You can follow us across social, TikTok, Instagram at NerdSesh, and Twitter at Nerd_sesh. And Logan already plugged the Discord. So with that, as always, appreciate you guys very much. I've been Carson Brabber.
I have been Logan Camden.
And this was NerdSesh.